time to tantalize your earbuds with creative makers and shakers. It's Creative Living, the podcast with Jane Klaus.
This is Creative Living, the podcast, and I am Jane Klaus. Now, we all know that laughter is the best medicine. We've heard that. We hear it all the time. And when it comes to being funny, I mean, there's really all kinds of funny. I hang out with a lot of funny people in my life. I've worked in radio throughout my career, so I'm always around funny friends, all different kinds of funny. I do have a friend who is not funny. She claims that herself. She actually is an accountant, and she's got a big degree in accounting. And at my wedding rehearsal dinner, all the funny radio people got up and spoke. She got up right after me or after them, and she said, "I'm not funny." But here's what I have to say. And the thing is this, it doesn't matter. That was funny because she made it funny. And my next guest, well, she really knows how to bring the funny and add the creativity to laughter. She's the owner of the Laughing Academy, and she spends her life helping you create laughter. I'm excited to welcome to the show and say hello to the effervescent and lovely, as always, Kim Hiller. Hi, Kim.
Hello, Jane.
How are you today?
Oh, it's wonderful. We're finally getting summer. It's great.
Well, yes, we are finally getting summer. And, it's just like, who's this, 5 o'clock somewhere? It's summer somewhere. Well, today it's here. So that's always the good news. Kim, you're the teacher of funny. And another great teacher of funny is Jane Curtin. I idolize Jane Curtin. You could be her sister. I told you before, you remind me of her. Do you take that as a compliment? Because I know I do.
100%. First of all, her intelligence in her humor and the way she presents herself. In fact, one of my first roles in comedy was playing a faux newscaster, and I definitely had her in my mind.
And was she sort of an inspiration to you growing up and watching her do her thing? Like, how did you get into funny, the business of funny?
Comedy was just always lauded in my home. Like, absolutely, my dad and I in pun wars, taking us as kids to Peter Sellers' movie at the drive-in. And I found SNL by the time I was 5, 6 years old. I was watching it. I have terrible insomnia, and I'd watch it. And the humor was a big thing for my family. In fact, it used to embarrass me how funny my mom's side of the family is, and now it's my favorite thing to boast about.
And I love to laugh. I think, like I said at the top, there are all different types of funny. There's silly funny, there's irreverent funny, there's self-deprecating funny, there's very blatant here, this is a funny joke. What does it mean to be funny?
Well, one of the things we talk about in improvisation, and it's true, my favorite forms of humor, is you simply have to be human, just like your friend there saying, "I'm not funny." She was being present, she was in the moment, and she's being vulnerable. And she ended up being funny, right? So that's really what we teach through improvisation. Don't try to come up with a one-liner. You're up there with another partner with no script. Just the human condition is funny enough. Just be present. And that's the kind of humor. I like the kind where the whole audience is laughing, and then all of a sudden they realize they're kind of being called to an awakening because they're laughing at something they've come to accept as normal that was just pointed out for its absurdity.
And then they think, why didn't I think of that?
Yes. Oh, my favorite comics are like that. I watch the audience after, because we do a lot of stand-up shows at our studio as well as improv, and I'll watch them sometimes, the audience, they just laughed. And as they're walking out, it's like they've seen a magician. They're like, how did those thoughts get strung together in such a brilliant way? Nobody else could have done it but that magician. And that's a brilliant thing.
And it is like a moment when you realize you're laughing at something that you already do. And there's nothing better than a face hurting, belly laughing moment, whether it's a show or whether it's lunch with friends or hanging out with family. We can go into the health benefits of laughter and funny and being around people who spread joy, because I think that's a whole different angle to the creative side of being funny. So let's talk about the creativity of being funny. Is it like the chicken and the egg? Which comes first? Do you have to be creative to be funny, or do you have to be funny to be creative?
Well, first of all, everybody's creative. So it's not a binary concept. Everybody's creative. Some people have allowed their creativity to be somewhat dormant, and that is trainable. And that is one of the wonderful things that actually improv training can do for you. This yes and mentality, for example, most people have heard those buzzwords surrounding improv, mean that I hear your idea and I must accept it. I can't shut down your idea, but my and is I get to reinforce it. And if you think about applying that to everything you do, well, brainstorming is going to work now, right? Because I'm not going to shut down my ideas. I'm going to spout them out. And think about any meeting you've ever been in. Like, we're going to have a brainstorming session to solve this problem. And then everybody starts giving ideas, and immediately, and believe me, they think they're helping. But people point out the flaw in the idea. Wait a minute, this is a brainstorming session. Everything should stick for right now. And with yes and, you aren't allowed to do that. You have to say yes to the idea. Your and is the solution. And that's creativity in action right there. That's you seeing something outside the box and seeing another way of viewing it.
So it's like a moment of realization because, sitting in that meeting, there are the very serious people who don't want to do the yes and. But if for one moment you let down your guard, you let down the what if, so what if that happens or what if they say this, you can open it up for a yes and?
Yes. And so people who say no are rewarded with the safety they attain. People who say yes are rewarded with the adventures they have.
I love that.
Right?
And people do that probably without even knowing it.
Oh, yeah. Part of the reason that we say no, it's easier. Like, even if I'm in this office meeting, right? My saying no means we don't have to figure out how to fix the problem I just saw in your thing, right? We don't have to do the work. Well, that won't work. Well, how do we, let's try that. Let's just try going down that avenue for a minute. So that it's part of the reason that people say no. And again, like I say, those people in that meeting think they're helping by pointing out a problem, but let's see the good in the idea and see what we can pull from it.
And that's kind of like having an optimistic attitude. So you're going into the meeting or you're going into a family dinner that you may be dreading with an optimistic attitude. You can't really teach optimism, but you can teach funny.
Oh, I like talking about optimism because that's actually more important than IQ to success is an optimistic attitude. And again, there's creativity in optimism because I'm stuck in whatever situation I'm in right now, but I can see that there's a way out as opposed to being like, this is just how things are, right? I'm optimistic. I think of, well, here's the good. That's the yes, right? Here's the good in where I'm at. And I can also see that this isn't permanent and I can start to be creative about solutions out.
How do you teach somebody that?
Well, there are many ways. The one I know the most about is improvisation. And it's, okay, so it's yes and, but it's also things like forgiving yourself and others' mistakes, beginning without having to know how it's going to end. I mean, we start any scene. Give us a location. You're at the beach. At this moment, you and I are standing there. We don't know our relationship to each other, what the scene is about, certainly how it will end, but we're willing to go in and try. And we're willing to accept that we may make mistakes. I may call you accidentally 2 different names in the course of the scene. You're going to use that as opposed to going, we got to start over. You're going to use that and go, oh my gosh, Mom, you really never could decide what to name me, could you? So now we've got something the scene's about. Now I'm the mom and we have a relationship and there's always already something implied about someone's indecision there. So there's so many things we can do because we weren't frozen at the prospect of making a mistake, nor frozen by the fact that mistakes happen. We continue to go on. So that helps us to train our creativity and our optimism. Also think about the paralysis of procrastination. There are so many creative ideas we have, and then we don't set out to do them because we got to wait till this thing happens first, or we're not sure. I got to know this before I can actually execute it. What if you don't? What if you just go in? And that's what improv 100% of the time is. What if we don't know all those things and we just go in and play with where we're at? I will admit there is something this is bringing to mind. Steve Colbert, he was one of my teachers at Second City. He used to say there's a reason the improv set is free. So when you watch a Second City show, it's all scripted material, but it's scripted, developed largely through improvisation. And then at the end, they show an improv set of about 30, 45 minutes. And the reason is because some of the time it's just going to be a disaster. It just isn't working that day. We make the mistakes. Those things happen. But some of the time you are watching genius. You are watching a pure tightrope act and Shakespeare all in one, and it's just glorious. So it's free because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And an improviser has to get up there and do it every time. And we say, play the scene you're in. Even when your scene is tanking, stay in there. Make that joke about why you use two different names. Keep it going. Play the scene you're in. Don't hope to be in a different scene. This is where you are. And think about that. This is what I love about improv is anything I tell you that's true about improv is true about life, right?
It sure
that's
is.
true about life also, isn't it? During 2020, we all wanted to be in a different scene, but you had to play the scene you're in. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Be paralyzed because you can't go out of the house, or be in the house figuring out what you're going to do next?
You can't, make a left-hand turn and then put the pedal to the metal and go somewhere else. You have to be in it. And wouldn't it be such a better life if we all just took a moment to be in that moment and think of it optimistically and think of it in a positive way and just put your yes and spin on it to laugh at something that may have been correct or incorrect? Because a lot of times we're ready to accuse or even accuse ourselves if we feel like we're saying or doing the wrong thing. But again, back to creativity, and I always say this, Kim, is there are no mistakes when you're being creative because stay in that moment and then make something out of whatever it is you feel like is a mistake. Probably the same on stage too.
Yeah, two things you'll hear me say all the time at the studio is no shame, no blame. And just think about that for a second. It's like not only I can't shame you or me or blame you, or we just have to go and be where we are. And the other end, I have this printed huge on one of our large walls is if you stumble, make it part of the dance. Just keep going.
I love it.
There's no reason for stopping. I just there's another thing about improvisation though that helps with all the positivity, and that is that you're never alone. So we say before we walk out on stage, we tap each other on the back and go, "I got your back." And one of my favorite stories. It's a show, and I have two second-grade kids on stage playing the alphabet game, and that's every line of the scene has to begin with the subsequent letter of the alphabet. Two second-grade girls, and they're slaying it in a show, audience full of they're everybody's parents, but like people they don't know, and one of them locks up. We're already to S or T. She freezes. And normally what happens in that case, because it happens, we just discussed how mistakes happen or
right.
Something like that. So normally a partner, especially with young kids, will go, just say this,
Yeah, right.
And this girl instead puts her hand on her friend's shoulder and just goes, "I got your back."
That's so sweet.
I'm weeping. And then the girl gets it back together and they finish the scene golden. But what I loved in that moment was I loved the one girl knowing that just having someone there was enough, but I also love that other girl knowing that that's all I have to do, because that's really how we have to be there for people, right?
Yeah.
So your friend comes and tells you their problems. You don't go, "Well, I think you should file for divorce and then you should get a new apartment and you say, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And to watch that in action, and it's all through, through learning this art form of improvisation.
I mean, improv can really help you in all aspects of life. Just being a good friend, being a good teammate, being a good worker, and your creativity. I feel like it should be taught maybe from a young age, part of a school curriculum. Have you ever thought about that?
Oh, I did. That was actually how the Laughing Academy primarily started. Was we were teaching 450 kids a week in their schools before and after school. So not necessarily part of their actual curriculum, but as an after-school option. And yes, I see it, and I love. Here's an example. Another time they made the teacher weep. It was during the pandemic, so the 8th grade graduation for one of the schools was online, and one of my students gave a speech. I didn't know he was going to do it, but right away my phone buzzes. Everybody's like, "Get on this Zoom now." And he's saying how improv, and he mentioned, he started with me in 3rd grade, and he said it changed his life. And he totally got it, because he said, when I went to middle school, I said yes to things because I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid to take risks because improv had taught me that. Say yes, and I tried this club, and I did this thing that I'd never done before, and I enjoyed that. And he said, but yes and is more than saying yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's the and. See, I'm choking up right now because he got that. He said it was me being present and what I brought to those that gave them meaning. And I was like, that is exactly what yes and means. It doesn't mean I say yes to everything. It means I say yes, I acknowledge your idea, I acknowledge the opportunity, and then the and is me putting myself in there. I have to be in it.
It is so good. It's something that we should all remember. Yes, and we should remember that too. I feel in our creative life and in our maybe it's a hobby. Maybe you're not at work today. Maybe you're gardening. Maybe you're exercising. Maybe you're in the kitchen. Maybe you're in your craft room. Creativity for me comes in all shapes and sizes, and I believe people can be creative wherever they're at and whatever their passion or hobby is. But it's also found in improv and in comedy. How can we pull a little bit more of that, let's say, into a creation or something that we're doing hands-on?
Yeah, the yes and of it. Even when you're organizing your closet, right?
Yes.
You're
and
that's being creative. I don't know. I think people don't realize it takes creativity to go, well, I'm going to move this over here. Yes, and if I put those in a box, that would create more. Yes, and so you're constantly looking for new solutions, and it is in everything. It's in any even menial task because you're going to have to problem solve at some point. At some point, it's not going to go the way that it's supposed to. You know, the genius is not in the planning because things seldom go as planned. The genius is in your grace to handle the unexpected. So it's your creative brain that kicks in and goes, oh, even this thing that functioned the same way every day. Let's take COVID for a prime example. Everything, the way we did it had to change. But many people figured out how to still do what they needed to get done. But all the tools we had used, all the ways we had done it were gone. And your creative brain kicked in and went, okay. Luckily, somebody's creative brain had thought of Zoom. That helped. But
I wish it was mine. We'd be millionaires by now, Kim. So creativity is everywhere, and everyone is creative. I say that just like you. People, I'm not creative. Yes, you are. You can make and do anything you put your mind to doing. Speaking of mind, when you're talking about the level of this quick fire thinking, the mental gymnastics, the mind agility, having the yes and attitude or learning how to implement that way of thinking, people may say, oh, I can't do that. My mind doesn't think that quick.
Everything is it's just practice. It gets you to more than Carnegie. Yeah, the more you exercise that part of your brain, the more you become okay with it. And again, remember that part of it is being okay with, you set out, you organized that closet and then you looked at it and you're like, oh God, I never even figured out where to put the sweaters. I got to start over. It's being okay with that. It's being okay with with things not going as planned. That enables you to dip in and keep going, not give up because the first time it didn't work. I mean, I give this example to my young students, but like, the greatest gymnasts in the entire world go to the most important meet of their lives and stumble during the routine. They finish the routine and stick the landing. They don't go, I'm giving up now.
I'm done.
They finish the routine. They stick the landing. They make it part of the dance. So you have to be aware that no matter what, it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay. In fact, some glorious things come from the unintended, right? Post-it notes were supposed to be super glue. There are so many examples of things that were supposed to be one thing and then happened to the other. The other one that I take from improv is also not being blocked. So in improvisation, we would call someone who doesn't yes and you. They're blocking you. They're blocking the creative flow of what's happening in your scene. And there's an example from dozens of years ago, improv scene where this woman and husband are playing. They're playing husband and wife, and they're fighting. And the woman says, "That's it. She pulls out a gun. I'm going to shoot you." And he goes, "You can't shoot me with that milk carton." So you see what he's done since our props are invisible. He's just decided to not give her the gun that she just said was in her own hand. So that's very jarring for the audience, by the way, but certainly jarring for the scene partner. And what she did was pantomime pulling a milk carton off of her hand and go, "Yeah, the gun's under the milk carton." It's like, I will not be blocked.
But that was smart. That was quick thinking on his part, especially to then change the narrative of that scene. And now it went from I have a gun to you're going to shoot me with a milk carton. It's not going to happen.
Yep. And then she goes, "Yes, I am. The milk carton's just covering the gun."
Oh.
So she just turned it back around. I will not be blocked. I will not. Because I can find a creative alternative solution to any problem I'm in, because I've been exercising that. And it really is, there are ways that if you're home alone, you can also just allow yourself to brainstorm or free write. Take a walk.
Yeah.
Put down the technology. Take a walk. Allow your brain to explore, see different things. Listen to podcasts you love. True story. Read articles that interest you, because creativity, part of it is your brain making these connections from disparate thoughts.
Mm-hmm. And having time to do so. So I always just say, can we just be? Can we just let it be? Because sometimes you just need to be. And that's sort of what you're talking about.
Yeah, we are human beings, not human doings. We need to take some time to just be.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think not only is it understanding that you can't make a mistake, really and truly, if you have the improv mentality and that creative thinking, but that humor is also a catalyst for creativity. So they kind of go hand in hand. So if you're struggling to think of the next thing, because a lot of times you get tapped out, if you let it be, if you understand that there are no wrongs, and then you let it be open to understanding the funny or maybe making you giggle or smile or be curious, that can then lead to your creativity.
Because humor at its core is us looking at something an alternative way, right? Like, even though they say the lowest form of humor, but I'm a huge fan of the pun. But if you look at a pun, it's just someone taking the word and looking at it a different way, right? Mm-hmm. So that's creativity right there. What creativity is seeing something, but then seeing an alternative to it, seeing it in a different way, seeing a different use for something. So at its core, that's what it is. And your great stand-up comedians are doing that too. They're drawing new parallels to you for the way that we look at things. I'm trying to think of some direct examples of some of my favorite comedians, but
I got to tell you,
they're doing.
I love that you love puns. I love puns, and I love a good pun war. I'm not good at them. So there I am right now, bringing in a negative to the conversation. I wish I was good at pun wars, because I think they are so funny. Amy Poehler, Nick Offerman, amazing at pun wars. How can we be better at pun wars?
I just was thinking, I don't know that this is the way, but there is this Second City game that we used to do. It usually comes at the very end of an improv set. But they would pull it up for me because I love it. I love puns. The setup is every time you go to tell a joke, it has to start with 101 somethings walk into a bar. The bartender says, "We can't serve you," and the somethings say blah. So give me an object, just any random object. Like the game is actually called 101 light bulbs.
Okay.
So I could do it from light bulbs, but then you'll think that I planned this.
Oh yeah, do it.
So from 101 light bulbs, walk into a bar, the bartender says, "We can't serve you," and the light bulbs go, "What?"
Oh.
101 light bulbs walk into a bar, the bartender says, "I can't serve you," and the light bulbs say, "Screw you."
Right. So 101 perfume bottles walk into a bar, and the bartender says, "Can I help you? Would you like a drink?" And the perfume bottle says, "That stinks."
Exactly. See? So then you start thinking, and the part of the way we play this game is no matter how bad, or even if it falls flat, we all applaud, scream, cheer like it's amazing, and you're unafraid to go out and try again. Just try again. If you do that a dozen times, two might be, really something you would want to share, right? But you just keep doing it and keep starting. Train your brain. Play these games.
I love it.
You absolutely can. Creativity can be fostered through just exercising this sort of free thinking, allowing yourself to be okay, forgiving yourself the mistakes, moving forward, looking for alternate solutions. And to me, in comedy, one of the examples of that is just taking a word, looking at all the different ways we can look at it. You know, my dad and I would go for hours.
That's good.
And then now we do it on text, so you get a little more time.
That's fun. All right. And let's sum it all up here, Kim. So give us 3 takeaways that we can do today to be lighter and lovelier and funnier and spread creativity everywhere we go.
I think be willing to take risks. Be willing to try something without knowing how it's going to turn out. Go learn to, if you stumble, make it part of the dance. Forgive yourself your mistakes, and then try practicing this yes and. I'm telling you, even if your child says, "I want to go play in traffic," well, that's a hard no, right?
Yes.
But listen to where there's somewhere you can say yes. What is the kid interested in? Are they interested in transportation? Take them to a car museum. Are they interested in, the way the roads work? Go take them to the Museum of Science and History. There's something you can do to tap into the yes part of a hard no even. And that can be exercised every day.
Kim, your tagline at the Laughing Academy: creativity, confidence, communication. Tell us about the Laughing Academy and how can people find you if they want more Kim?
Absolutely. We can be found at thelaughingacademy.com. We've got a presence on Facebook and Instagram, The Laughing Academy. We're in Glenview at 3230 Glenview Road. We teach improv classes for ages 5. I say to 105. I just found out last night my oldest student is currently 76. We teach retirees, which talk about that, like getting back out there and trying something brand new as a retiree. I just love it. During the pandemic, for free, no charge, nothing, just to help families, I put out 40 videos how you could play improv games at home. So they can go exercise their creativity with the games we put out there. 40 of them on YouTube. Just put The Laughing Academy in the search bar and check them out.
And that is thelaughingacademy.com.
Yes.
I like it. And that's Glenview, Illinois, because, Kim, people from all over the universe will be listening to this. They want to know where to find you. I say go to thelaughingacademy.com. I love it. She puts the F in funny, and she is here to help you live a more creatively funny life full of laughter. Kim Hiller, thank you so much for joining us on Creative Living.
Live better, creatively. For more inspiration, visit janeclaus.com. Thank you for listening.